Welcome to Porch Play Chats, sponsored by the American Association for the Child's Right to Play, or our shorter name, IPA USA. IPA USA is the USA affiliate of the International Play Association. And as part of our efforts to promote play, we introduced Porch Play Chats back in 2020. And we've been doing them continuously. And so there are 306 Porch Play Chats that are free to you, and they're available on our YouTube channel. And if you friend us or whatever, follow us, whatever it is on Facebook, magically every Monday morning a new Porch Play Chat will appear in your feed. I'm Deb Lawrence, and I'm co-president of IPA USA. With me on the porch today is Madison Greenfield-Mills. Madison, welcome.
Hi.
Madison is a graduate student at the University of Central Oklahoma, studying in infant and child studies with interests in child development, play, and children's rights. A person after my very own heart. Um, Her other interest is in family well-being, and her work focuses on understanding how children's environments shape developmental outcomes and how play serves as a critical tool for learning and that emotional expression and resilience that children need to carry them through life. Through her research and advocacy interests, she seeks to elevate conversations about equitable access to play for all children and encourage professionals to advocate for all children's right to play. So Madison has taken on a very interesting research project in ICE detention center in Oklahoma. And so today, Madison is going to talk to us about what happens when play is restricted, examining play deprivation among children in ICE detention. And Madison, what a topic.
Yeah.
And one we all need to hear because we know what's happening, right? But I think you being there is what's really bringing it to life.
Right. Yeah. I did, like you said, it was a research topic, and I just kind of, the way it came about was very just not planned, if that makes sense. I remember it was back in March of this year. I was just sitting on my couch going through headlines, and then I came across one, and it was talking about the conditions in Dilley, Texas. And so
Mm.
I didn't know this, but there's only one, because there's ICE detention centers all across the nation, but there's only one family detention center, and that is in Dilley, Texas. And
Mhm.
so this article just went over like the conditions there, what children were facing in that center, and it really just had me thinking about it. And the more I thought, there was one particular part where they discussed crayons and like writing materials were being taken away from the children because they were writing about their experiences there.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, I have a little like, I printed this off just to kind of show you. I don't know if you can
See
see
if we
that
can.
very
Oh yeah, we
well.
can see it. Yes, we can.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh my God, look at the bars. Oh
Yeah,
boy.
so this is one of the work samples from a child in the center. A lot of other ones, they have a lot of other ones posted just on social media, on news articles, things like that. But a lot of them have the same kind of look to them, like children in the cage, basically, like their family in a cage. And like up at the top, it says, I am 5 years old. And so
Mm.
a 5 year old is drawing this in these centers or in Dilley, Texas. And it is just very, very unfortunate. And then I was thinking about it and then taking away the crowns and writing materials, and I was like, that's play deprivation. And
Mhm.
so that's whenever I started to kind of rabbit hole and just like really get into it and just start researching it more and learning about the conditions there and then relating that to the research that we have in play deprivation. So,
Oh, that's well, and I think if Dr. Bruce Perry was listening, and I'm sure he knows about it, but if he was listening to it, he would say that's how children deal with trauma.
Yes.
They
Yes.
draw pictures, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's sort of an outlet for them.
Yeah.
I remember one policymaker that actually was able to get into one of the ICE detention centers said that they had all these boxes of material that had never been opened
Mm-hmm.
in the family centers, and that might have been Dilly.
Yeah.
I'm not sure which one she was in, but she said we walked in and they're supposed to have school, they're supposed to have all this stuff, and
Yeah.
everything was still in boxes and had been there for months, and
Mm-hmm.
no one was using the space.
Yes. It is very unfortunate for sure. But I'm just gonna kind of go into the conditions a little bit, if that's
Mm-hmm.
okay. Just kind of
Mm-hmm.
talk about it. This is probably going to be the most grim part of the chat.
Okay, we all need to
Um,
hear it. We can't hide from it. It's happening.
yes. So they one of the big components to it is their needs are just not being met. So there have been multiple reports of worms and molds being in the food, and they've reported like foul smelling water. And I actually remember a quote from a child that was in a news article, um, and he had said, "The doctor keeps telling us to drink more water, but it's the water that's making us sick." And I was just like, wow, that is just, I don't know, having to live with those conditions is just, anyways. But
Human.
yeah. And so, yeah. Um, they're receiving inadequate medical care. There was, back at the time in February, there was 2 confirmed cases of measles in the center. Um, Sleep conditions are poorly. There's a lot of families have reported feeling like they're sleeping on top of each other. Like there's families that are having to room with other families and they're just kind of like crammed. And so people are dealing with that, just like not really having a space to call their own, which, I mean, there's not really a space and they're like, yeah. But lights are kept on constantly and they're all fenced in, like barbed wire surrounding it. It is just a very, very grim condition, especially for children and families.
Mm-hmm.
um, and so it is, a lot of the children that have been able to get interviews with policymakers and lawyers and press, they have said that, like, they've struggled with anxiety attacks. There's a lot of teenagers that have said that they are having like suicidal thoughts or thoughts of self-harm while in there. Yeah. And the thing that's really, really unfortunate is the increase in the children that have been in that center. We've noticed, I have a little fact sheet so I get my numbers right because there's a lot of numbers to this. But ICE has detained roughly 6,200 plus children since February of 2025. And then the average time spent in federal immigration custody has grown from approximately 37 days to more than 200 days.
Mm.
So they're not only in these conditions, but then these conditions, they're having to live with them prolonged too, which is also, through research, known to be very, very much
Imaging.
more harmful. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So,
One of the things that I think I heard a politician talk about, and the reason why they're keeping them for so long is because they have um, contracted out with private companies, right? So
yeah.
it's not like the um, jails or the prisons that you may have in
Mm-hmm.
your community. These are private contractors, and the more time they keep them, the more
Yeah.
money they get. And so
Yes.
again, it's that human um,
Mm-hmm.
greed sort of thing that is doing all this harm to these children and these families
Yeah.
that it's just incredible.
Yeah. It's very, very unfortunate. The one that is funded for Dilley, Texas, it's Core Civic Corporation. And there's been a lot of advocates trying to get through to them and saying, like, these are these are people that you're doing this to.
that you're
And they
doing.
are like a for-profit company, and they're just, yeah. So
Getting as much money as they can. And, you know, it's the same sort of greed that you see in other humans, right? Who
right.
are very, very wealthy, and the only goal is how much more money can I make? Who cares what happens
Mm-hmm.
based on what I'm choosing to do? And so it is,
Right.
um, it is a horrible feature of human nature that people are making these decisions to cause harm
Yeah.
intentionally.
Mm-hmm.
Funny. Yeah.
Yes. Yes, it is very unfortunate, but we are still doing a lot of things. I do want to kind of highlight that, make it a little bit more, I guess, motivational or something to look forward to in all of this is there have been a lot of protests. We've seen those on the news. A lot of press is getting through this. Um, there have been, we have noticed that, you know, people, whenever they have started to advocate and there's been a lot of headlines, they have been able to kind of adapt because it is a very negative um, news headline and not something that looks too good. And so, like, for example, I don't know if you knew, I know there was like a lot of headlines surrounding, do you know the child that was talking about wanting to go to his spelling bee? Like he was in there and he was just wanting to go back to his spelling bee. Okay. There was a child, and it made headlines because Miss Rachel interviewed him, and it was just like on
Oh,
a video.
no. Yes.
Yeah.
And they've released him.
Yeah. They called it humanitarian parole. So it's basically where they were able to release him back to his home for a little bit of time, and then they do have to go back. But he was able to go back and go to his spelling bee, and so that made the news and was a little bit better. But I don't know. And then it kind of makes you wonder why they can't do that for all. Like, because I know legal proceedings are very lengthy and they take a lot of time. And so there's been a lot of speculation that they're purposely making it uncomfortable so that families just want to leave rather than stay and try to go
They
through
want
all
to
the legal processes.
self-deport. Yeah. So
Hmm.
they're making it so uncomfortable that families are giving up and saying, I'll just go back, even
Yes.
if it's not safe for them to go back to
Yes.
their country.
Yeah,
Mm.
so that's what a lot of people speculate, and I kind of am also that way because I don't know, I don't see any other reason why. I like, even if that's a very poor reason, but I have no idea. I don't know. Um, so yeah, there has been a lot that we're doing. There's been a lot of organizations online. That's been a lot of my research into all this is just social media, looking up organizations, what they're doing. And then actually on May 20th, um, there were some people that went to the US Capitol, a couple of organizations, and they put out 620 teddy bears and paper dolls. They shared these templates online. And so you just like cut them.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm. And write just a little message to the families or even legislators, anybody, whatever message you're wanting to send. But they set those out in a field that was facing the U.S. Capitol, and they were there, and it was known as the National Day of Action to Free Families. And
Mm.
so I have that listed on one of my resources, just kind of talking about that day and the things that people did there. There are a lot of speakers that came and talked about it. A lot of families showing up for other families that are in that center, and yeah, so we are seeing a lot of people come together, which is really good. We need that because that is what is ultimately, that's how we're seeing results. That's
That's
how
the
we're helping.
pressure point. Yeah. To make them look bad because
Yeah.
they are bad. It's,
Yeah.
but to lift it up into the light
Yes.
is so important. So, Madison, I have to tell you back, and I have to think when because I'm old. Um, I think it was in the 90s. It was right when they were um, renewing, it might have been in the 80s. It was right when they were renewing the family services. So the
Hmm.
CCDBG fund back then, which is what funds low income childcare and food stamps and all of the support safety nets that we used to have in the United States for families. And so they took that outline of that doll that you had on that piece of paper, but they were this big. They were cardboard faces.
Hmm.
And all over the United States, NAYC did it. And all over the United States, all the NAYC affiliates were to get stories from families who were using those services and to decorate those dolls, have the families decorate those dolls, and
Hmm.
then put their story on a little necklace around them. And then they went to Congress and they put a doll in every person's seat in both the Senate and
Wow.
the House. And that was sort of, even though some of the legislators would just take them, not read anything, and just put them on the floor, which sent a message that perhaps that person shouldn't be there. But it was interesting the power that that had,
Hmm.
and they
Yeah.
even had them on the Capitol steps because they had hundreds of them to get one
Right.
in every seat, and so they had to walk by them
Hmm.
all
Yep.
the time.
Yep.
Uh, and so that sort of face forward, in your face advocacy
Yes.
is one way to bring attention to
Hmm.
um, things that are happening that shouldn't be in our country. So,
Yes. Yeah, and they had 620 of the teddy bears and paper dolls, and that was supposed to be one for every 10 children detained.
oh my God.
Yeah, and so they had signs of that too, like why the number was that, and it kind of explained some of the conditions, and also, just informational pieces of like little QR codes that people could scan to, learn more about what some of these families and children are having to face, because it is very, very just traumatizing.
Mhm.
There's really no other word for it than that. And then, it makes me think about the ones that are US citizens and they do come back, but now like that trust is broken, like
Yeah.
one place that is was called their home, and then they had to leave and then coming back. Like I personally, like just putting myself in that situation, I wouldn't really feel safe being back because then
Well,
I'm
and
like,
I think the point that you just made is what's so important. Some of these are US citizens, or they have green cards and are here legally,
yes.
or they overstayed their welcome, but they have not committed crimes.
Hmm.
We keep hearing it's the worst of the worst, that we're getting rid of the worst of the. No, we're not.
We're not.
No, we're just housing children and
Yes.
families to get the numbers that they want. And
Yep.
um, and so I think the power of hearing those stories, even though they hurt, right? They hurt us because we're advocates for children, but hearing the conditions and the stories and taking away paper and crayons because they were drawing pictures, trying to release some of the anxiety and stress and sort of try to deal with what it is they are experiencing. um, again, I don't know why. Well, I know why in Texas because of the governor, but I don't understand why we're putting up with this. I don't understand as a nation. And I mean, there are protests. People have been protesting, but I don't understand why we're not forcibly
Hmm.
doing something more
Yeah.
um, for these ICE detention centers that have American citizens or legally here people present
Yeah.
with children. And and the
Hmm.
and the goal is you can leave with your children, right, and go back to where you came from, or you can stay here in these sorts of conditions. I mean, it's just awful.
Yeah. Yeah. It is very, very just unfortunate, not a good time to think about. That is actually one of my notes of like things that we could kind of do better at. Just like a little critiques that I have, even though I know I'm only a graduate student, like I don't have a whole lot of experience. I'm just now kind of dipping into advocacy and things like that. So I don't have a whole lot of advocacy under my belt, but um, just in my research and stuff, one of the ways that we could kind of improve on is really the experts that know a lot about children, know how this is impacting them, even just on a development
Mhm.
scale. Because, there's play deprivation, there's just how our brain works, how like
Mhm.
a child's brain develops. There's a lot of factors to consider. This is where the experts need to be coming in and saying, no, this is how it's impactful. So we have a lot of people pulling on the heartstrings, and it's very, very emotional. And that really gets through to the people that have a lot of empathy or empaths and, care about this. But I think a part that we could really focus on and kind of try to tackle this too is having more informative pieces on why. Like, no, this is bad and here's why. And we
Mhm.
have research to back it up. And so I
Mhm.
haven't seen a whole lot of that. I've seen some. A lot of the things cited is just from American Pediatric Association, which is a very reputable source,
Mhm.
but there's more than just that outlet that we have this research from. And so that is one thing that I kind of I hope to see more of, and what I'm trying to do in just my work and stuff. But another thing that I noticed in the headline, the one that I read, the first one, it was a New York Times article, and I had emailed the authors to that and stuff, and kind of got to talk with one of them for a little bit. Um, but a lot, like a big focus that they had in that article was the education, or I guess like lack thereof. Like the curriculum is very poor. Um, a lot of the older children aren't really learning anything new because they've said it's really just coloring sheets and like really simple worksheets. Yeah. So not a
That's
good,
how everybody learns. Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm. With work. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, that they've reported of that. Here, hold on. I gotta move my cat. He is.
I'm kidding. And I see a puppy behind you.
He
Okay,
was.
you okay?
Oh, I know. Yeah, I tried. Anyways,
Yeah.
it's fine. But where was I going with this? Oh, so they had a big focus on the lack of education. But my kind of argument with that is also, they're just the children, they are not even in a state to learn.
Right.
So we could even just
No.
yeah, we could even just bring theories into this and go like, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, like, their primary, what they're
Focus is
focusing on is,
survival.
yeah, they're trying to figure out if they're going to have drinkable water. They're not even in a state to learn.
No.
And so,
No, they can't.
yeah, and so that's really a part that we need to be expressing in all of this. Like these conditions are severe. They're in a survival state. They're the whole way I bring in play deprivation, and kind of some of the not really backlash, but one of the arguments. So I went up to my state capitol and talked to some legislators, and I had made a little handout for them
Hmm.
to just let them have. And it was just kind of talking about, why play matters and play deprivation. I told them some of the research that I was doing with children in ICE detention centers and um, kind of what they're dealing with there. And they would always question me and they're like, but why play? Like this isn't a playful environment. And I would be like, that's exactly why. Like that's exactly what play deprivation is. Like they're very restricted. There's a lack of autonomy, a lack of choices. They're in very, very high stress, restrictive environments, and that is what is harmful. And
Hmm.
so we need to be talking about that and saying why. Like, why, how are these impacting children? And then if you want to argue that they're not our children, even though I believe
My
that all
God.
children have the right to play. But
Oh my goodness.
if they even come back with that argument, there's still a no. There are still there's children in those conditions that come back home because they are U.S. citizens, and so then it's like, what are we doing for those children that come back, and then that trust is broken, and then they're having to live with that trauma just at home. So
Yeah, it's just like it's like they don't see them as humans. They see them as, you know, I don't know what, but it sounds like the conditions are, worse than you would find in a zoo,
yeah,
right? So that's how they're sort of almost that needs to be, we're treating people in these detention centers much worse than we treat animals in a zoo.
yeah,
So, I mean, it needs to be that in their face. And what are we going to do
yes,
about it, right?
yeah.
Madison, this has been crazy. Um, do you have in your notes, and if you would you send me that sheet that you did for the legislators?
Oh
And
yeah.
we'll put that on social media and
Okay.
make sure your name and contact information is on it when you send it to me. Just email it.
Okay.
Because I think if people can see, you know, all of our people believe in the child's right to place, but if we can get it out there so that other people
Mhm.
understand what that play deprivation is doing
Yeah.
to humans and future, people in the world, you would think that we would be a little more concerned with what's going on in there. Do you know how many detention centers are in the United States? Not we know that Dilley's the family one. Is it just one that's a family one? You said, I think.
Yes, it is just, yeah, that one is the trying to remember the name of it exactly. It's the I can't remember the name. It has like processing center Dilly. Anyways, that's gonna bother me. I'm
Yeah,
gonna
it's
get
okay.
off of
We'll look at. I can look it up and I'll stick it in there.
it.
But do you know how many other places are doing this to people, right? To
I'm
humans.
not sure. I know that there's three in Oklahoma that are just for adults. And it's very unfortunate. I see the buses on the highway quite often. Just like I know what, people know what those are. Yeah, I'll see those on the highway a couple of times. I'm not sure how many are nationwide, but I did look on just the ICE like government website. They have one for at least every state, and I know some states it's multiple. So like Oklahoma has three, and I believe that each state has one, and they even have quite a few, just depending on like the size. And I do know that they're trying to open up more family centers
Right.
across, yes, across the
And people
nation.
are protesting and saying, no, you're not going to put one of those
Hmm.
here, which is
Yeah,
good.
actually, yes. Actually, in Oklahoma, they were trying to do that. It was previously like a Big Lots facility, like factory, and they were trying to use that as a family detention center. They were trying to open up another one in Oklahoma specifically, but the chief of the Choctaw Nation didn't let that happen because it was on Choctaw land. And
Mm.
so they have to go through them first before they can purchase buildings. And so he ended up purchasing it and was like, "No, we're going to use this for something else." Just
Good
to
for
kind of,
him.
yeah, just to
Good for
kind of,
him.
yes. So
Oh my goodness. Madison, thank you so much for, I mean, all of us know it's happening, but this has really brought it up into, face.
Yes.
We're hitting us in the face, which is good. So thank you so much for joining us. Stay right there while I close this out. To learn more about IPA USA, please visit our website at ipausa.org. And until next time, keep on playing. Just have to stop the recording. There we go.